Hi, so welcome to the video. In this one I'm going to show you how I built a pond in my garden, and some of the things I learned and some of the mistakes that you can avoid making. So first thing I did was get a digger, a 1-ton bobcat digger. It was excellent, and I dug out the whole area. It's very heavy chalk. There's no way I could have done this with a spade. The digger made easy work of it. So what I'd say there is I dug to the limits of the digger based on the size and its length of reach, but it meant that some of the sides were extremely steep, which meant that I had to put some chicken wire and render reinforcement to stop the sides collapsing. If I'd made the sides less steeply angled, I'd have a smaller pond, but it would have been a lot less work in the preparation of the area, because at any side that's more than 45 degrees you're going to need to do some reinforcement. So what you can see here is all the chicken wire that went round. I had a concrete perimeter ring that I did at the top. That's very important in terms of giving the edge of the pond some rigidity. I put the chicken wire in place using stainless steel pegs, or in this case, where it was too hard to hammer in, I used screws. It doesn't really matter whether the screws and pegs last. All they need to do is hold the chicken wire for the duration of the rendering being applied, and they mustn't show through to this side of the render. And then I went round and basically threw the sharp sand and cement mix a dampened base. It stuck reasonably well, so threw it at it, it sort of sticks, then you press it down and just work my way around the whole pond. This is an important feature here. That's where there's going to be two pipes coming out below the surface of the water, which in a pond makes a massive difference, because it means that you don't need to pump water out. You can just open a valve and water will come out of the pond, either at the point of the inlet, or if you attach a pipe and you can run the pipe down to the bottom of the pond, you can have a bottom drain kind of arrangement without having all the faff of having a drain at the bottom. So this is once I'd done all the render over the chicken wire. It worked really well. I think I used a 4-to-1 sharp sand and cement mix. And then once it had dried, maybe a day after, I brushed it down and brushed it all into the middle, and then removed all the stones I could, so I was left with a really smooth surface to then work with. So this is it after it had somewhat dried and was ready for the next stage of the process. The pond is about 2.5 metres by 3 metres by 1.2 metres at its deepest point. There you can see those two inlets, those little bits of white you can see on it, a bit of sticky tape over the screw holes, because you really don't want to get a piece of grit in those, because then you won't be able to screw into them. So this is the underlay going in. Underlay was pretty straightforward because it comes in nice lengths you can just overlap. The liner, on the other hand, was enormous. It was 7 metres by 6 metres, and it was extremely heavy. So whilst it looks like this was instantaneous, in fact it took a long time to get it to the garden. I had to roll it, and unrolling it and getting it in the right position is also quite tricky. Then the job of filling. So this is you want to have the whole day to do this. You need to work out the creases as it fills up, which is actually quite a job. You've got to keep your eye on it. I was really keen to know exactly how much water was in the pond, so I got myself a measurer, a water flow measurer, but I checked its accuracy and it actually wasn't that accurate. So I just adjusted the number it told me by calculating the rate of flow that it thinks it was doing compared to the rate of flow it was actually doing by measuring into a bucket, and then I just adjusted the total that it said to me at the end. So it said 4,000 litres, in fact it was 6,500 with the adjustment. So this here is with those two outlets that I've got there. You need to seal those to the liner. I haven't showed exactly how I did it because it was too fiddly a job, but you can only do that when the water's filled up just below the height of those that you're fixing it, so you know the liner's in exactly the right place. But I used polyurethane sealant there, and that worked really well. So that sits about 20 centimetres below the surface of the water. When you're doing that concrete rim, you want to make sure it's as level as possible, so use a nice sloppy mix, because I had to go around and re-level some of the areas in order to get it to the right height. Otherwise you end up with bits where the line is too high and bits where the line is too low. This is the filter pipe work running to the filters here. I'll show those a little bit later, but that ran underneath the decking. And so now we've got a pond that's holding the water. I've trimmed the liner back. I did it so it sort of zigzags a bit around the edges with the concrete. This is where I wanted to paint the decking. I floated this this plastic sheeting so that if there were any splashes, it didn't go into the water. Even there weren't any fish in there, I didn't want any paint going in the water. And this is introducing the fish. The water's green because I haven't had any filters running because I was transferring the filter from my other pond. So that took about 2 weeks to clear once the UV was getting to work, but the fish were happy anyway. I dechlorinated and used a mature filter right from the word go, so there was no problem with ammonia or nitrate. So this is the filter, which is based on a design by Righty with his koi channel. I've used it on 3 ponds now. You've got the settlement and particulate filter and then moving bed filter there, run with a high blow air pump, which is far better than any other air pump I've ever found. This then is a waterfall that's controlled by a valve that either runs into the waterfall or runs into the pipe work here that you can see. The filter return is that one on the right with the white connector. On the left you've got the overflow that goes into one of my prefixed outlets. The other outlet isn't connected to anything yet, but I'm planning to connect that to a pipe that runs down to the bottom of the pond, so it's like a bottom drain. That one you can see there going into the water actually suspending the pump, so the pump's held in place by the pipe work. That works really well, suspending the pump about a foot below the surface, which means that it's not at risk of emptying the pond if there's a leak somewhere in the system. It'll only go down to below the pump and then it'll stop working. I've got some air line running down to the bottom of the pond that stops things settling on the bottom and also keeps the fish happy. Lots of oxygenation and gassing off ammonia. So it's working really well. The fish are very happy, and I've got my superfish feeder there that works well as well. The decking here overlaps quite a lot on the right hand side. What I've done is I've used some extra liner and hung it underneath, so in fact if water drains through from that decking, it won't drain into the pond, it will drain over the edge of the pond. In terms of things I've learned, this is the 5th pond I've built, and I've applied some of the things I've learned over the years, but I wouldn't do the steep sides here. It was very difficult on the vertical sides to get the render to stick, even with the chicken wire. The width of the planting shelves wasn't wide enough in places, meaning I can't get a full plant pot on them, so I'd do that differently as well. I'd also take more effort to get the concrete ring around the outside level at the time I laid it, rather than having to patch it up afterwards, because it really is important that that's level. Otherwise you'll just end up with patches where the liner sticks out, and low patches where the water overflows. But other than that, really pleased with the project. The fish are happy and it's looking good. So I hope that's been helpful. See you on the next video.